Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Listen, I'm a Barber podcast. I'm here with an old friend of mine. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
How does it feel to be sitting in this type of environment right now?
It's a little nerve-wracking, especially since the last time I saw you, you were bald.
I was bald.
Yeah, and I just kind of like always assumed it's because you were prematurely balding, but it looks like that's not the case. So
No, it wasn't prematurely balding. We don't have to start off on a bad note, but a friend of mine died from cancer, so I shaved my head for him for cancer. Never grew it back.
Well, now I feel like an asshole.
Don't be. It's all good. But I haven't seen you in a couple years. What the fuck have you been doing for the last, 6 years? I know COVID happened.
Yeah.
A lot of craziness. What's been going on? Actually, hold on. I don't do this. I completely, I got to make amends right now, but I haven't had a drink in a while, but you know what? Salute. Cheers.
The old friends.
There we go.
Let's do it.
All right. So, what you been up to?
So the last 6 years have been pretty crazy. I left New Jersey, after a lot of partying in my 20s, kind of going crazy.
I remember that.
As you're aware, we could probably, go back to that. But I ended
We will. We're going to go back to that.
I ended up deciding that I needed a new start. And so I picked all my shit up and I moved to Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
I heard that's one of the most highest depressed ratings in America.
It was horrible. So,
What's Seattle like?
so basically what happened was I applied for a job on LinkedIn and I didn't know that it was in Seattle. I was just like applying left and right, like to anywhere and everywhere.
So you obviously went to Seattle.
Right. When they called me and they're like, hey, we want to fly you out for an interview. And I'm like, what do you mean fly me out? Fly me out where? And they're like, to the job you applied for in Seattle. So I was like, fuck it.
Oh, okay. You just didn't give a shit at that point.
Nope. I didn't. So they flew me out there. Looked nice. You know what I mean? The company was good. And
What was the company?
Eddie Bauer.
Okay. I know Eddie Bauer.
Yeah.
Old school classic.
Old school classic. Exactly. And I came from Ralph Lauren, which is also an old school classic. So I was like, this kind of works. And it's across the country, like literally the furthest place I could go to. Let's have a new start. So I picked up my stuff and within 2 weeks, I was over there. And I started work in March of 2020. Do you remember what happened in March of 2020?
I'm pretty sure I stubbed my toe.
Aside from that, that is when COVID started. So
you're starting fresh right into COVID in Seattle.
Yep.
Everything's new. And now the world is acting a whole new way. Holy shit. Before we kind of creep into that part, before you did all that, you were a bottle girl, you were in the industry, before we go further into that, like how did you go into that kind of a transition? Like that's a huge transition there. How did that work out?
So I actually went to school for fashion merchandising. So I was like, I had, the business degree in 2012 is when I graduated. I was taking temp jobs here and there, like Armani, Calvin Klein, these like so on and so forth. But
so they're all big. They're big name companies.
Yeah, but they pay shit, to be honest with you, especially if you're just starting out there. So
okay, so that's something, I guess, off topic, but a lot of people probably wouldn't know. These big companies, the big flashiest of all, they're actually, not going to say it's slave labor, but seems like it's kind of along those lines, right? No?
Yeah, that's not going to, say those exact words, but you are absolutely not wrong, especially when you're temping.
I like how you said that. You're absolutely not wrong.
You're not wrong, yeah. So actually it was breaking down to about like $8 an hour, working for 12 to 14, 16, 18 hours. Yeah, and I lived in New York City, so I had to make somewhere else.
Wow. So you almost, if I'm just going to take myself out of my own head for a second and put myself in your shoes,
Sure.
You're trying to get into a fashion industry. You're trying to grow that, but they're literally giving you probably not even enough money to pay your bills.
That's correct.
Huh.
Yeah. So, with that being said, obviously I was big into like the Jersey Shore scene and the club scene, and I love house music and all that good stuff. So,
By the way, this is really good.
oh yeah, it's Celsius. Which flavor is it? Guava kiwi?
I like it.
Good. happy to see you drinking.
So bottle service, you got to make do.
Yep. So I started. So I had a good friend named Hyro who owns this company called Posh Models, and they're actual models.
Posh.
Yeah.
I feel like I know that name.
There's Posh DJs and there's Posh Models. So I don't know if there's like billboards on the turnpike. So, but yeah. So he actually has a group of models. They work bottle service. They kind of like work at people's homes for private events, so on and so forth, right? And once in a while he would have me work on big holidays such as like New Year's Eve, where nobody wants to work, right? Everybody wants to go out and party. Yeah. And so I would work for him on New Year's Eve at like these like big places up in like Edgewater, New Jersey, and wherever he needed me. And that's where I would make my money. And I worked infrequently. It wasn't like all the time. But anytime he needed me, that was a really, really, really big boost of money, because I didn't really give a shit at that point to celebrate New Year's. What am I gonna do? Go to New York and watch a ball drop for the 19th time in my life? Like, gross.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. I guess it's kind of, I don't ever think about the fashion industry. My fiance really likes that. Like, she's real into,
right,
the designer stuff. But I have a barber business. I don't have a fashion business. But to some degree, I guess having people work for you at the bottom dollar is almost like your test time, like your time trial. Yep. Do you see them do that with a lot of people, or is that a small group of people? Like, how is that really big, or is it just a small demographic of the company?
Do you mean like within the company? Is it a small demographic that's kind of getting that
screwed over, or either like pushed down to like rise through the ranks to some degree?
Listen, one thing I will say is that I can only comment on the retail industry just because it's the only one I've ever been in. So I just want to kind of preface with that.
Absolutely.
But I will say it is a small demographic of people. So it's people who are interning, temping, doing these kind of entry-level jobs. Like anything that ends with the word coordinator, entry-level job, you're getting paid shit. Like, you really have to find a place that wants you to grow from within.
Coordinator to me sounds like another term for manager. Like, if you're coordinating something, you're organizing something. Managers organize. So those don't correlate in my book.
Yeah, in the fashion industry, if the job title ends with a coordinator, you are entry level. Anything that says assistant at the end of it, which is with that one's a little bit more obvious. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? It's just really, really hard to grow from the bottom. And in my early 20s, it was a lot of nepotism. You know what I mean? A lot of.
I see that everywhere I go. And I'll be honest, you might hate me for this. I also participate in nepotism.
I think we all do.
To some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree, yeah.
I mean, don't if you opened like a big barber shop and you had a bunch of people that were working for you, like at the moment, right?
If I could find fucking reliable people, I may have done that. This is a very, very selfish industry.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that. So my boyfriend Joey, he works in plumbing. He had his own plumbing company down in South Carolina, and
Those do very well. Plumbing does very well.
But going back to the nepotism piece, I will say that, he was hiring some of his friends, and, not that they were doing a good job, but like it was a little bit more of looking at like who and who needs the help and who could maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I've had my like young kids in the shop, I'll mentor them, but I will mentor them in a sense of, still having a responsibility. So I could see how he would probably struggle on that, because if I could, I would want people in my life that at least I know them from a foundational level to be like, okay, I just got to get your skill up. But I do get how that could be very challenging, almost playing like a mentor role.
But being somebody's friend, it's rough.
I think it's more of like an accountability thing. So I stopped doing business with a majority of my friends, or even, I stopped doing business with the majority of my friends just because if it ever went wrong, I sometimes don't want to feel like I'm going to hold them accountable, but they also step up to the plate. They take the responsibility, but then hold no accountability. So it's like, okay, I'm losing friends. I'm losing friends based upon a lack of accountability. It's like they want
Right.
to be there for the money. They want to get the quick check.
Right.
I'm helping them out. And I'm like, well, I need you to do this. And then there's an excuse. And I'm like, okay, you little cocksucker. Like,
Right.
okay, like I took care of you, but you don't want to take care of me. And was it like that? Yeah.
And it's I will say it's a total 180 from where he works now. So he works for Plummet Heat It Cool It over in Norristown, King of Prussia area. Great company, but this guy's got a real small company, but he's just so dedicated to his employees that he's got, or I'm sorry, to his customers, that he only has 2 employees that he did not know from a past life. So Joey is one of them, and like they just do such a great job, and it just functions so much better. And I guess that's also a difference between like a small company and a big company, but that's, a different story. Point being that the nepotism is real, I think, in any industry, to your point. But that's how it was starting out in fashion. You know what I mean? And like, it's exactly what you would think. Like, you got to be like skinny and hot and all that good stuff. Like, I worked for Armani. You could only wear black. I dyed my hair like dark blue at some point.
Any reason why you have to wear all black? Is that for the slimming effect? Like
the slimming effect, because you're around like buyers all day. So like people would come in from Nordstrom, they'd come in from Neiman Marcus or whatever, and you needed to look the part. And I actually dyed my hair like a dark blue at the bottom because Kylie Jenner was doing it at the time, and they made me dye it back. I don't know.
Shit.
I don't know which one's more embarrassing, that I did my hair like Kylie Jenner or that I actually dyed it back. But yeah, it was rough.
Look, no judgment. Remember Pauly D?
Yeah.
My hair looked like Pauly D's. I have no shame to that anymore.
I was Snooki. It's fine. I wanted to be the JWoww, but I was the Snooki. Let's just be fair here.
Isn't it kind of funny though? Like that was kind of like the generation you kind of grew up on.
Yep.
I remember everybody when we were in the clubs, like it was a Jersey vibe.
Yeah.
Hair gel, hairspray, shitload of spray tanner, and in some really, really dark fashion, a lot of drugs.
Yes.
A lot of, like, quietly there was that, I guess that scene. Like I started just drinking. Like that was, I was the smooth starter. Everybody starts there. And then the way the club scene was at the time, it was like, oh shit, these cats are just hitting the bathroom and they're coming back, bang, bang. I'm like,
yeah,
he's charged up. I want whatever that is.
Right.
And now I'm doing what that is. And
Exactly.
holy shit. And it's just a spiral.
And then it became not so quiet, to your point. Like it was kind of like it felt like it was like a silence thing. And then over time, because everybody was just partying and doing all the same shit, like it was just like out in the open, just like that. Nobody cared.
I feel like that was a time of like there wasn't a lot of responsibility. I was building my business and
Yep.
partying to meet new people. I remember sitting in the barber shop and I'm the one white guy in an all black shop and I'm like, yo, you need a cut? And they're like, nah, I'm going to him. Yo, you need a cut? Nah, I'm waiting for him. And I'm like, well, he might take a minute, but like I get you. It's like, no. And
Right.
it took a long time to build that. But in the meantime, that's where I met you. I met you in the nightlife.
That's right.
Oh my God, I remember when
The day life.
technically the day life.
Yeah.
I remember, what was it, Bungalow in Atlantic
AC.
City?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. You guys ever been to Bungalow?
Yes, we just went. The one we set.
The beach
just a
bar,
couple weeks
right?
ago.
So I broke my leg. Remember I was in crutches?
Yeah.
It was my I forget what birthday. And everybody threw me that big party at Bungalow, and they're like, yeah, we got to make Jay feel better. He's all fucked up.
And I happened to be throwing my best friend Eric a birthday party there at the same time. It was the same day, same time.
It's the whole shit.
And I knew Mark a little bit, so I was like, oh, hey. And I like came over and said hello to you guys. We all, kind of became friends, but that was like just a shit show.
I was tripping on acid that day. Yeah.
Well, you were having the time of your life, I'll tell you that.
I think at one point in the night, check this out. Wait, listen to this. So, Derek, you remember Derek? Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting with Derek. You know how they have like the benches in the back, like where you could kind of lean? I remember leaning, I got my arms out, and I'm like, I was vibing, I was feeling good. And next thing is something internally just wasn't feeling right, and I'm just like, and just yacked everywhere.
In the back by the bathrooms?
No, right behind, right behind.
Table.
Nobody saw it.
Been there.
And if they did see it, it didn't matter,
No.
And then I just remember turning my head back, and I'm like, okay, I'm good again. Like, this is great.
I feel like I remember that. You were like, hold on a second. Blech. Anyway, as you were saying.
And you know what? That was one of those moments, like, years later, I looked at it, I was like, yo, that's how, like, reckless, that's how kind of reckless the scene was, because I was kind of pushing myself to a limit where it's like, I shouldn't have been taking, I guess, like, the mixtures, was partying too hard.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, I wanted to talk to you about this because it's been a topic of conversation with a lot of my friends recently.
Sure.
The famous phrase, 30's the new 20.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't think it is for everybody. I think there's a select group of people that if they use their 20s correctly, their 30s look more youthful going forward.
Okay.
In a sense, I feel like that maybe could be like a guided way to look at that term. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but I have to respectfully disagree in just on one thing there. If you use your 20s correctly and responsibly, I feel like you almost miss out on that. And I guess it depends on the person. So I kind of think that some people like who, did the right thing. They went to college, they didn't party, they didn't do any of that stuff. And then they got married. But not saying marriage is bad in your 20s. I just mean like as an example, married, have kids, whatever. And then you're just yearning for that like 20s feeling in your 30s. And that doesn't necessarily mean like drugs. I mean like maybe even traveling, like that kind of stuff. Like the stuff that you're supposed to.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I wouldn't have put that together in my head. So that's a cool perspective.
Yeah.
Because right now I feel like my 20s I spent partying, I spent networking, trying to. I think like with all my guys that come in the shop, like a lot of conversations are driven towards money. Yep. Like how much do you make? What are you doing? Like how are you getting through life? Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of people focused on like I guess more of a statistical point of view now. I feel like in the 20s it was more like who's like the big dick around. Like I feel like that was who had like a personality, a confidence, and ego. And it's like now in the 30s, I almost wish nobody has that ego. It's like, no, we're just here as people. Yeah. Kind of can we do something here? And I feel like I've lost that, not confidence. I'm always confident, but I lost the excitement. I lost the thrill of a consistent stimulus. So I had so much of it in my 20s that now I'm in my 30s. And now I just kind of briefly dive back into it. Like, oh, I'm having a night. Like, we went out last weekend, and this is the weirdest shit in the world. Neither one of us drank, right? So we stopped. We went to a fight for my buddy Tevin Farm. We had ringside seats. It was fucking sick. AC? Philly. Yeah, we were in Philly, the 2300 Arena. And we see the fight. The fight's great. Me and her both had a couple of drinks. We're kind of just like enjoying the night a little bit. Sure. And then we go see my buddy over at the Assembly Rooftop in Philadelphia. My buddy Matt, he gets us in. And he's like, yo, go to my buddy in the back. He'll make your drinks for you. I'm like, I had a plan to have 1, 2. Right. Yeah. Right. It just started. Yeah. It started, and then the hamster wheel started turning. Yeah. We leave that bar. We go downstairs to the bottom bar where my other client's working at. And then we happen to get into a conversation with a gay gynecologist and a 60-year-old principal from Ohio at a Philadelphia bar.
That sounds about right.
Reminded me of kind of my 20s, but the effect was different in the morning. I woke up, and I felt like a fucking Mack truck just like railed into me. Right. And I didn't want to get out of bed. I don't want to talk to my fiance. I'm like, oh my God, this is not like 30 is not the new 20 for me right now.
Well, it's funny you say that because as I was telling you, we went out the other night and like, we really don't like, we love to sit home and watch the Yankees games, right? That's like our thing, clearly.
I feel sorry for you, but it's okay.
I feel... I feel sorry for you.
Go ahead, talk some shit. Go ahead. You want to talk some shit? Go ahead.
What do you have, a Phillies fan?
No. Absolutely not. This is where I know you can't even talk shit.
Well, who do you like in baseball?
Oh, I don't watch baseball. Okay, I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that.
No. What I was going to say is we like to, sit at home, watch the Yankees game or whatever. And the other night we were like, screw it. Let's just like go out. Let's just go literally to the corner bar and have a drink. Just the other night, go figure, we get drugged. And going back to the bottle girl thing, I have been drugged a couple of times. I'm, kind of, I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say or if it's just like, other people have the same experience, but I know exactly the feeling. And like, it was literally just supposed to be us, like, just being social for 10 fucking minutes. And then
just to get out of the house, break a little.
Right. Yeah, like talk to some new people, whatever. And it's like a dive bar. I know it's sketchy, whatever, this, that, and the next. But like, I felt it right in my feet. Like it's the Gumby legs. It started. I go, we got to go. And thankfully, the place was right around the corner. He starts taking me home. He starts feeling funny. Now,
Oh, shit.
at the end of the day, we're fine. Everything's good. Like, I know everything, I have a million different.
I think it's weird that you both
Yeah.
got that feeling, because usually you just hear a chick getting drugged. You don't
Sure.
you don't usually see the boyfriend, and
Right.
that's weird.
Well, I'll give you an example. So, like, in my 20s, when I was, like, always going out, partying, doing all this stuff, there was a time where, like, my table all got drugged, and I couldn't understand why. And I realized it was because we looked at the cameras later, somebody had come over and poured something in our ice tray, because we had, like, the bottle in the ice tray, so everyone's scooping the ice. So after that happened, and there was one guy at the table, it was my friend's now husband, and he was the DJ at the club. So, like, the audacity.
Oh, it was him.
And it wasn't him. No. He got drugged as well. What I'm saying is we were next to the DJ booth, and like the reason I knew that it wasn't just like us girls getting a little too drunk is because he didn't have a sip of a drink that night. All he had was a scoop of ice with water because he was DJing. And
So that's how you knew it was the...
yeah,
Okay.
and I had high heels on. I was like doing one of these with my ankles, and then he wasn't right, and I was like something, and I figured out who it was. It was like a whole big thing. It was over in New York or whatever. But whatever. Long story short, like it's just been so many scenarios that like you just never know. And what happened with the other night is like both of us drink double Tito's with a splash of club soda and limes. We
Is
wanted
that what you made me just with this?
with the Celsius, yeah, but yeah.
Right. All right, I can see why you like these. Like these are pretty good. Not a club soda guy though.
Well, here's the thing, but you could take, like, if you have a double Tito's club soda in a short glass and you can't taste the vodka, something's wrong. And that was the first thing that I mentioned to him.
Wait. See, now this is something I think people would need to hear.
Yeah.
Run that back.
So, double Tito's club soda, short glass, extra limes, that's what I like glass like that.
You know what the drink is.
Yep. I watched the bartender pour them, and actually we said to each other, we were like, ooh, that looks like more than a double. Like, yeah, we're getting away with some. Like, we're getting 3 shots in there. I took a sip. The first thing I said to him, I was like, oh, they're watering down the Tito's. Like,
Okay.
I don't taste any vodka, which I didn't think was super weird. It's a dive bar. I was like, whatever. But
You two ever been to a resort like off like the United States yet?
no, I mean,
That's how the liquor is at the resort. Not every resort, because me and her, we went to this one place called the Grand Palladium, and I fucked up.
Punta Cana?
Yeah, I fucked up big time. I thought it was watered down drink, so I'm like, yeah, let me get another one. Well, within an hour, I had like 10 drinks, and I'm like, I ended up screaming at her on the balcony. Not that I was mad at it. I was just screaming ungodly. I'm like, okay, yeah, these aren't watered down. Like, I'm fucked. Next day sucked. The morning did.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because God knows what was in there, because he stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. I'm very aware of my surroundings, being, what I did in my 20s. And there were sketchy people there. There was like some weird conversations going on, but like nobody touched our drinks. And I do know that the owner of this place is a little bit of a crackhead. Like, it's just like really divey. It's just cheap. So we like going there, and they'll play the Yankees game for us in Philly. So.
Guys just got a bar, serving up some drinks, probably like some household fun at the bar.
Yeah. So, I don't know what happened, but something happened. And I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is like, I feel like, even going back to our conversation about COVID when I moved to Seattle,
Oh, you're bringing that all the way around.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but it all kind of circles back. So like I feel like COVID just like fucked everybody who's in their 30s now. It fucked everybody up. So like I already have social anxiety because of COVID. I feel like I was stuck. I literally in Seattle, I was not allowed to leave my apartment and I was there alone. I was in the office for 4 days and then they sent us home.
Why?
Why was I?
Why couldn't you leave?
Because that was when it hit what was the town? Kirkland, Washington, or yeah, that's where COVID started. It was like in like a senior citizen home and like in Washington, in a town away from Seattle.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know that, so I go to the office the first day, nobody's shaking my hand. Whatever, long story short, I find out like, no, literally I'm like, hi Nicole, nice to meet you, and they were like, gross, don't touch me. I was like, I thought we were jerks over on the East Coast, like you guys are assholes. Now it turns out there's like a deadly disease like running around. But they sent me back to my apartment and they were like, and you couldn't leave.
That's weird.
I had a specific hour that I was allowed to go to the gas station and a specific hour that I was allowed to go to Trader Joe's in Seattle in March of 2020.
I think for anybody listening, if you had an easy COVID ride, that feels like jail. That feels like jail. See, I didn't go through that.
I
didn't go through that.
It was a ghost town. So it's funny that before you asked me about like how is Seattle, like now I think it's just kind of full of whatever. We could talk about that later, but it was a ghost town and I was allowed out certain hours of the day for groceries and for gas, and that was it. Nothing was open. And I feel like that, how old was I? Like maybe 27. And I feel like that just like grew on top of my social anxiety, my ADHD, all the things that I've got going on. So when it was over, well, it wasn't over. I actually ran away and went to South Carolina where I met Joey, where COVID wasn't a thing.
I'm just
I
like
felt
baffled.
weird.
I'm just baffled right now. Babe, we bitched a little bit about what was going on here. We weren't on none of that where we couldn't leave our fucking house.
Nope, couldn't
We could, yeah, come on in. Yeah, come on in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So I guess this is kind of coming around full circle a little bit because I was a little defiant. I had a lot of people that weren't a fan of me during COVID. They were.
Why is that?
So I was telling Joey this. I followed the first 2-week rule. I did. Like when COVID first happened, the 2 weeks, I was like, fuck yeah. I was drunk for the first 7 days straight, drinking Screwball like a jerk off.
Is that the peanut butter whiskey? That shit is kind of bang.
So good. So good that I killed about a bottle a day, if not a bottle a day with my friends for 7 straight days. I actually drank myself into like somewhat of like a delirium by like the 7th day. Because I haven't drank for 7 straight days. Even on vacations, I don't do that. Like I get my one or two.
You're really a big drinker in general, at least from when I know you.
Not anymore. I used to like other things. I like my weed. Occasionally I like my mushrooms or something. But I'm just kind of jolted about the whole situation because I stayed closed for 2 weeks, realized I didn't want to drink no more, and then the 2 weeks hit. And I don't know about you guys, but like it kind of like got to a point where they were like, oh no, hold on a little bit longer. And I'm like, oh, hold up. The shit I was talking about, it's going to be done in 2 weeks. No, it kept going. And then all my boys, I felt like my phone rang that like 14th day, like, told you dumb fuck. And I'm like, all right, so maybe this is going to get a little weird. So I opened the shop back up.
Right.
I didn't care. I was like, nobody's paying my bills. No one's paying my mortgage. I said, I take care of myself. So like 2 weeks was actually like a nice vacation.
Sure.
Like I cleared my head, got fucked up and then cleared my head. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But then once people started coming in to the shop, it was, people being super excited just to be outside of the fucking house.
Yeah.
They were like, yo, like, I'm so happy you're open. Like, but this is what fucked me up. I actually I've been smoking weed for years, but this almost made me like a habitual smoker. Every half hour, on the half an hour, I wasn't getting good stories from people. No one was telling me how great life was. So like, as their barber, I'm digesting like remember the Green Mile
Yeah.
and how he just ingests everybody's shit and then just like expels it out.
Yeah.
I feel like every half hour I was like,
Yeah.
that was the only part that fucked me up. But in the midst of gaining a bigger clientele because I was the only one of the few people open, I had a real odd look at my book, and I'm like, there's a lot of people that maybe were staying home, staying to themselves, and I was cool with that. Like, that was all good. But then I had some people, I don't really like check my Instagram messages too much, but
Right.
I started looking there, and I was like, it's like a backup of like 40 messages, and I'm like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
I go like, go fuck around with this real quick. It's like, bro, I can't believe you. You're open. You're cutting hair. Like, bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, look, I'll be honest. From like a morale standpoint, I really didn't want to. I don't like to be a bad guy. I feel like in business, you honest, like you can't really do that anyway. Like, you have to kind of adhere, like, to some type of mutual respect with people's opinions, even if you don't agree, like to some degree.
Yeah, but guess what? The people that want to stay home, stay the fuck home. You opened, and the people that felt comfortable coming to you came to you. You have a right to keep your business open. I fully feel that way. And if you didn't feel comfortable with it, then you wouldn't have opened it. And the people who are bitching at you like, oh, here are the rules. Oh my God, I can't believe you're open. Then don't come here. So you stay home. It's not my problem.
I guess what it was, and I've seen I got great relationships with all my clients. Like the barber client relationship. Like, I know people that would cheat on their girl before they cheat on their barber.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If he goes to Camden every 2 weeks, he doesn't even know how to speak Spanish. These two don't understand each other. And he's like, I'm going to him. I don't care what he says to me. It's yes, do it.
Men, yeah, we're not going to get the whole hair game, but when we go into a shop, we know. We can look amongst the room and go, that guy fucking can cut. But going back, I think it turned into more of when we had those relations, like me and these clients, it was like they just didn't think we were on a different page. That was the main discrepancy.
Right.
They were like, well, no, you're going to hurt these people. And I'm like, I don't see how. And then it became a battle of emotion and logic. And as crazy as it sounds, that's when my business took off. When I started applying logic and all the emotional like cats that were upset with me, like some of them came back. Some of them are still kind of like, go fuck yourself. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, I get it. I have no ego no more to say, like, there's been moments I was wrong. There was moments I was right. But in a lot of these, like, really controversial moments, I was like, yeah, we were kind of right. It just sounded ridiculous. Government made a bunch of money. We lost a bunch of money. Businesses went down the drain. People gained an insane, crazy anxiety about their life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I try not to do the whole like, I told you so, because this was such a serious thing to me that I was like, nah, I can't be that person on this one.
I will be.
You know what I mean?
I'll do it.
I can't, because you know what? Like, I've had too many where, like, I had Ian Smith on, and me and him were talking.
And he was a hero to me and, my close friends, like in 2020 where he refused to close the gym. And going back to your point, like, I just don't get it. Like, if you have such a problem with it, don't go. Mind your business.
So
stay home.
A lot of it becomes, though, false responsibility. And this is what me and Ian have talked about. It's like, there is a whole bunch of people today that have chosen to be responsible for a problem that is not theirs. And I think that's kind of where COVID really took off. It was like people thought, like, they almost started thinking that, like, they were going to be a change for something positive. And it's like, no, that didn't happen. And now it's almost kind of like, I want to bring this full circle back to what you said. Like, people in their 30s right now, since this COVID thing happened, like, I'm going to be 34. I turned 30 and pretty much COVID happened. Now,
your birthday's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up in August. So, and that's what I mean. Like, I spent a majority, actually all of my 30s so far during COVID. But I almost like I was telling Joey, I was like, I had to kind of be very, very careful because having a business during this time, it was like, I still got to have like respect to some degree because like these people have been supporting me for years, but like, a lot of us cracked some serious heads on this one.
Yeah.
And it was a very challenging time for me. And I accept challenge all levels. I like challenge. This one fucked me up because it wasn't something I felt like I could have figured out. Does that make sense?
It does.
I can't
I
level
feel
with
the
certain
same way.
people. It's
Yep.
like, I can't, we understand each other. And it's like, okay. And now I'm going to bring it back again with the 30s. You know, I feel like I'm really, actually really happy that 30 isn't the new 20 for me. Like, I'm happy that I'm not trying to be 20 in my 30s. Like, I actually, like, if there's a time, this is not advice, by the way. Got to make a disclaimer for that. Like, I'm happy I went through my 20s just figuring out how to understand people.
Yeah.
Like, that, I feel, was an easier part of life than thinking, yo, let me go to college, do all this, yada, 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 and just play their playbook. Because everybody I've seen in the barbershop, a lot of the ones that took that road, they're in massive amounts of debt. And to the common eye, and this is what got me. So they would be in the shop, and I know these motherfuckers are making bread,
Right.
but then telling me they're broke. And I'm like, how the fuck are you broke making $150K a year? Like, how? And they're like, well, before I did this, I went to college. I'm $200K in debt. I had to get a car. I have to get rent. You know,
Yeah.
God forbid some of them have a kid. And it's like, that 150 grand is nothing.
Nothing.
Shit, you
Ain't
got to
shit.
get that taxed, all that. And then it's kind of like, we go back. I'm happy I'm not feeling 20 in my 30s. I feel like I'm smarter because of that. Like, the illusion of fun is like you worked at a bar. You know, you've worked in the club.
Yep.
You know that fun is technically monetary. Like, you could not party for 3, 4, 30 years. The day you want to, there is a place to go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
My dad said something to me years ago. Yeah, you're going to like this one. I was probably like 22, right? And I was just in like a single phase. I was having a blast, just didn't give a fuck. And I was still living in my parents' house at the time. And I walked through the kitchen. My dad's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to Skeeter's. And he was like, what are you doing at Skeeter's? I'm like, oh, there's going to be some bitches at Skeeter's. Now, this is what got me. He was like, if I go, is there going to be some bitches there? And I'm like, what? And I was like, I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, think about that. And I was like, and at that age, I wasn't thinking about it the way he understood it. But he was like,
Right.
he's like, they're still there. And I'm like, oh, like the eerie fucking like feeling that I was drunk and I was starting to get my vibe going. And he just like,
You just like crashed.
oh my God, he fucking, I love him for it though. Because
Right. Yeah.
that woke me up. Because then it let me know it's like when I didn't want to have fun no more and I wanted to take a break,
Yeah. You're
I
not.
could
You're
go-
not missing anything.
you go right the fuck back. It's just different people, different hosts, different bartenders, the same drinks, different prices,
Different date rape drugs.
different day rape dogs. Yeah. You know what's funny? I was telling Mary this. I only had this happen one time, and I think it was accidental. So remember, you guys ever been to Providence?
Yes.
Nah. Been to Providence, babe? So Providence was in the Tropicana, right?
Oh.
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god.
So this club had the girls dancing in
Yeah,
the
it was-
cages.
Wait. I was there on opening night. I think.
Shit was wild.
I think you might have been there. It was opening night. It
Probably was.
It was Mark Knight, and my buddy opened for him. Sorry, that's like a totally different. But yes, it's the one where like you walk in, and like it was the high ceilings, and they like rappel down from the ceilings.
How that club ended up losing money is beyond me.
That place was amazing.
But we were at Providence, and every time we ever went to Atlantic City and got a room, I never pregame. I was cutting everybody's hair in the room. That was my thing. Like everybody threw me a couple bucks, got me into the club for free. Like
Sure.
like it was a cool transition, right? But I remember the one particular night I was cutting Jules, I was cutting Mark, and somebody gave me a shot of something, but like I was, you know that Long Island iced tea cocktail mix? It's like $9 for like the fucking big gallon.
Yeah.
I took like one shot of that and I was like,
Nope.
yeah, I'm like, this is dangerous. So I stopped drinking. We get to the club, we had a table, and you know how it was back in the day, everybody just jumping in on the tables and shit.
Yeah.
So I go to the bar and I see like 3 or 4 of my friends from like the shop, and I'm like, yeah, like, yo, let's take a fucking shot, right?
Right.
We all take a shot, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, all right, that was an expensive round. Let me just go get my next drink back at the table.
Sure.
So we had a Grey Goose bottle, nice big Magnum, and there was like that much left of the bottle. I'm like, oh fuck, they're tanking this thing like they're hitting this thing quick. So I was like, all right, let me just get the last little bit of it. That was the last thing I remember. I woke up in the hotel room, no money, no phone, had my car keys only because I left them in the room, and I woke up like a time traveled.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was sick. I didn't feel anything. I just remember instant like,
Yeah.
and I had like a good $500-$600 in cash, like,
And it was all gone.
all gone. No credit card receipts from the night.
Yeah, you got played. You got screwed. I will give you a bottle girl secret.
I don't think it was for me though. I really don't. I think it was I think one of the dudes set that up for one of the chicks. Didn't think I was going to come back in and grab the bottle real quick, killed it, and then next thing you know, and this is how I knew I got something, because I was angry when I woke. I wasn't drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was angry. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? No, like, oh yeah, I remember that. No, I remembered nothing.
So I've seen things like that happen. So, like there's been times where I've been working as a bottle girl, and it's like a group of guys at a table, and there's one guy who's like paying the bill, and then they get him like super fucked up. I don't know if that's the same scenario. I just mean in general, where I've seen and then like I am collecting at the end of the night, and they're like, oh, he's paying, he's got it, and this guy can barely stand, and he's like, my wallet, blah blah blah,
throwing the card up,
and his friends are just literally pulling the card out, and I can't do anything about it. I just make sure to stuff the receipt back into that kid's fucking pocket, which I did. I remember specifically being like, you're gonna need this tomorrow, because
did that feel kind of bad when you had to deal with that?
That
bills got to get paid. Look, they were partying.
Here's the thing. I didn't. I felt bad for the guy, but I did everything that I could in that scenario to make sure that he had the receipt and he understood. And if he wants to deal with his friends tomorrow, that's on him.
Okay, that's fair.
One thing that I will say is like some of the things that I feel bad about is like being that I only worked at a bottle girl very like infrequently, just on big holidays. I was working to get my fucking money because I was missing New Year's Eve. I was missing all this stuff. I was working. So one of the things that I did, which, maybe I feel bad about, is like, they'd be like, oh, come take a shot with us. Like they'd order a bottle of something. Obviously I'm selling what's the most expensive, right? Everybody wants 1942. Nobody even fucking knows what 1942 is. They just thought they were cool ordering it. Good. Take 1942. Hey,
just makes your tip bigger.
Yeah. And then they would be like, you want to take a shot with me? I'd be like, I'm so sorry. All I drink is champagne. And then what they do is they order a bottle of Cristal.
Oh, wow. That's slick.
Every single time when it's a group. Oh, every time.
Wow, that's
because
slick.
they did it every time. They're like, you take a shot with this. And I'm like, I really am not a big drinker. All I drink is champagne. And they're like, all right, well, what do you got? And like,
yo, fellas, listen to this.
Careful.
Don't catch yourself slipping.
Exactly. If the girl says she doesn't drink, she doesn't drink. If the girl says, I'm so sorry, I only drink. If you ordered a bottle of 1942 and the girl goes, I only drink Grey Goose, whatever the case may be.
She's selling the Grey Goose.
She's selling the Grey Goose. I did champagne every single time because I knew what was the most expensive on the menu.
You know what though? I never, we always got blessed when we would party, but listening to that, even from like a sales perspective, did you ever look at it from like a point of those champagne bottles were actually affordable? Like if you couldn't get somebody to get Cristal, it's kind of like, okay, they'll go get a bottle of Brut, or they'll get something where it's like, just get the bottle to the table, even if it's like the cheapest bottle.
Yeah, but at that point,
it's good sales technique.
But I'll tell you right now, at that point, I never had to like sell it down. It would be like Dom or Cristal. That was it.
Yeah, if you're in a club, you're trying to flex.
And also, like, yes, there were bottles that were cheaper than Dom and Cristal, but I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'll drink a champagne. All right, bring a champagne. What do you got? Dom or Cristal? Oh. And if they actually looked at the menu, they would find something like Moet or whatever it is. They'd find something real cheap, but I didn't even give them the option. And they did it every time. And I would take a sip of the champagne, like, thank you guys so much, go throw it behind my back, whatever I have to do.
I think for like a big holiday weekend, I might go to a bar and tell the owner, look, I identify as a hot female and I'm just gonna sell like champagne. That's it. Sell champagne.
That's it. No, that's it. It's funny because like towards the end of me doing this, I was in like my later 20s and the new girls were in their early 20s. They were thinner, bigger boobs, hotter, whatever. And I was trying to give them these tips. So I'm like, you can be 10 times hotter than me and the average girl, which they were. I'm like, but you got to sell. And that's one thing that my boss at the time kept me around for was like these big events, these big like New Jersey House 5 events, like fashion shows, things like that, the big ones where, and he would keep me as the person who sold like lottery not lottery tickets, but like raffles. That would be my job. It was everyone else.
What do you raffle in a club? A bottle?
Well, it would be like at events and stuff. Like you would raffle off, like it was like, big shot events, like people who own like the big restaurants in Red Bank, whatever. And we would raffle off, I'm making this up, AirPods. I don't even remember what it was, but it's just like, here, donate. And I ended up being that person for those types of events. Like I was dressed differently than the rest of the girls. The rest of the girls were like smoking, and all they had to do was just like
stand there.
Just stand there and like, flutter their eyelashes, and it was like good for them. For me, I'm a talker. I'm a personality girl.
No.
You either.
I don't like talking to
No, like that's what I did. I would go around and I'm like, you want to like donate, whatever, this and that, and like I ended up building like actual relationships with some of these people, and a businessman, or obviously like I'd get cards at the end of the day, and I wasn't really like, it was almost like I wasn't even getting hit on by the end of it. I was just like selling raffles, selling bottles, selling this, selling that, and in the end they were like, yeah, call me, like, oh, like, come work for me.
So remember when I was out, I couldn't sit still for like more than 5 minutes at a time?
That is correct.
I like doing that so that I didn't ever get so involved that somebody knew everything before I left the building. I always like leaving people with like he left and just never came back. Like it almost as if it wasn't important for him to come back. Not to say that's how I played it.
Right.
But like I also played it that way. Not sure if you did this as a bartender or had to do this. Sometimes I like my relationships sometimes like on the outside with people very like first tier. Like I'm cool to talk. I like to understand what people are doing, how they're thinking, like what they're into, like maybe we could get something going. But when it comes down to the personal part of life, like that's when the drama starts. Like we all got shit going. We all got shit going on in our lives. It's like I never wanted to get too deep with the hundreds and hundreds of people, because it's like if I had to be that deep with everybody, I'd have lost my fucking mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a 20s thing, because now in my 30s, I'm very fucking selective. Like me and my fiance, we talk to a very, very specific group of people, and even people that we're cool with, we very rarely see like outside of our own personal lives. Like we got our own shit going on.
Yep, I agree.
Like the whole COVID thing, it was like you either kind of had a little bit of a crackdown or you had more of like an eye-opener. And it's like I had the crackdown from the understanding of like what was going on. Like my head wasn't right for a little bit. I didn't know what was going on. People were mad at me for this reason. I'm upset that they're not working with me. I'm trying to make money to pay the bills. It's all this mass confusion. And it's like all the while, it's like all I'm trying to do is just have my life to myself. And a lot of it was conflicted because everybody needed to know what everybody was fucking doing.
Yeah.
It was different. Like, this is where I go back to when I'm out talking to people, it's got to be on a very, very specific level, because if not, it's only a matter of numbers. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a matter of like quantity before you start hitting that, almost like a sales pitch. Sure. You got 20 tables in the club. It's like 5 of them are going to buy the bottle. Yeah. You hit enough tables. It's like, I always looked at it as if the more closer I got to people, the deeper I was going to get to all that extra shit that I didn't want to have the responsibility for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I kind of want to circle back to like 30 is the new 20. The way you're explaining it is completely different than what I was thinking going into this. Because if you were to ask me just straight up, like, do you think 30 is the new 20? My answer would be yes. But the way that you just explained it, like having this whole conversation, like, I get where you're going with it. You know what I mean? Like, do I think 30 is the new 20 in a sense of like, we don't have the same expectations as a 30-year-old might have 50 years ago, whatever, making that up? Like, yes. But when you explain it the way that you do, I get what you're saying.
But
like,
it's merely perspective, though.
Yeah, but I'm agreeing with you now. I think I'm kind of on your page. And when you brought up like being in COVID, did that make you like more sheltered, or did it open you up? I personally think that for me, it did both. You know what I mean? And that's what
You had a clash of both, or
A clash of both. Yeah, it started with, like I was saying, like literally being cooped up in Seattle, dead streets, no people, don't know anybody, literally locked up. It's
somebody
raining.
call Akon.
Yeah, and I even like rented a car one day and tried to drive up to like Mount Rainier to take a hike. And I don't know if everybody else in this room is traumatized from Final Destination, but you remember the log truck?
Yeah.
That's all there is. It's in Washington. Log trucks. That's what. So I rented a car. I'm out of my house for the first time in like 3 weeks, and I'm driving behind these things, and I am fucking panicking. I'm like, I'm gonna die. Tell my parents I love them, but they're sleeping because the time difference is off. Like, I'm like panicking. I get to Mount Rainier. Even Mount Rainier was closed to hike.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
outdoors.
Outdoors, closed off. I was like, I went to like an oyster farm, like in Vancouver, Washington, not Canada, and like scooped my own oysters at one point because I was like, I need like interaction with like anyone that's open, and they were the only ones. And whatever. Long story short, that screwed me up, and that's the reason that I picked up all my shit. I called my boss. I was like, I was furloughed. So I was still like getting paid.
It's funny. I had to ask Joey what that meant. I'm like, I have no idea what furloughed.
Yeah.
To me, that's a jail term. You know what I'm saying? That's a jail term. It's like, yo, you got furloughed, bro? It's like, what happened?
Well, so.
What was that? Yeah. It's like, that's all you get. That's why I was like, wait, is that what furloughed? You know, wait, hold up.
First of all, if I could get furloughed again in the state of Washington, I would. So it's basically unemployment. You still get paid unemployment. You just don't have the work at the moment. So
okay. Yeah, explain that a little bit.
In Washington State, it's the highest, or at the time it was the highest. So I was getting $800 and something a week.
To do nothing.
So I was
wait. Okay, wait. So is that like considered unemployment? Right. So furlough is unemployment.
It's a like under the like same
guidelines.
Yeah, like same story, different chapter, for lack of better words.
So I'm going back to the whole coordinator manager thing.
Yes.
I'm like, is this like different terms here? Do they mean the same but sound different?
So it means that it's not unemployment because you're not fired from your job. You have not been let go.
Okay, okay, cool.
But you are not working at the moment. But you don't know if how long furlough can last, and if you'll ever go back to your job. Like, you can go from furlough to unemployment. It's up in the air. But in the state of Washington, it was like $800 and something a week. I was like, I'm good. And
were you getting extra from the state too?
Yeah. And
nice.
Washington State was paying the highest. If we were in New Jersey, it was like $423. Ask me why I remember that number, and I don't know what I ate for breakfast, but it was $423.
It's a traumatizing number. I understand.
And it was like $847 in the state of Washington. So what I did was called a couple of friends from New York that moved down to Bluffton, South Carolina. It's like a suburb of Hilton Head. And they would be like FaceTiming me, and they're like, we don't believe in COVID down here. Like, we're literally like,
so
that's...
okay, lead this in, because this is okay. So I didn't know that in South Carolina that's not a thing, or it was. COVID wasn't a thing. They were like, "Fuck it."
Everyone said, like, it was a thing, but nobody listened and nobody fought back.
So I'm real like dumb with this shit. Like, I try not to get too like tied up into it. Is that a red or blue state? What is that? Red state. Okay, that's how off like the reservation I stay with stuff like this, because I feel like you get so people can confuse themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like left, I like right, I like right in the middle, I like even like out in fucking outer space. Like, there's like so many concepts that I think that work in so many ways, but that's crazy. So you went from super blue to super red.
I put my stuff in a storage unit, grabbed a bag, went to South Carolina.
When you say you put yourself in a storage unit.
My stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Also myself, because literally, like,
packed yourself up for a little bit.
My Louboutins are still there, and I'm like panicking about it, but that's like a story for another day.
I think the stock for the Louboutins went up. Mary tells me this shit all the time. That shit's popping right now.
Oh, you guys wanted to take a flight out to Seattle, because I still pay $150 a month for that storage unit. But
holy shit.
I put all my shit in there, and the company stopped paying for my apartment. They actually moved me out there. And after 30 days of furlough, they were like, no, you have to get your own place. And I'm like, I'm not doing that if I'm not guaranteed a job. Literally got a bag of stuff, put everything in storage, flew to South Carolina where, my friends from New York were living. I was just going to stay for like a couple of weeks and just hang out. Stayed the whole summer, met him. They ended up telling us at my job at Eddie Bauer in Seattle, they were like, you can work remotely. So
Nice.
I grabbed him, moved up to Jersey to my brother's place in New Brunswick.
He just came right with you.
He came right with me.
What a savage.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the guy for you.
yeah. I mean,
Savage. Just gets up and rolls. I love it.
had his own company down in South Carolina. Was like, fuck it, I'm a plumber. Everybody needs me. And I'm like, yeah, they do. And,
You know what?
And they do.
I've said this on a couple podcasts, and I actually wish to some degree barbering wasn't such a personal connection job.
Right.
Because I think if you're just a good plumber, good carpenter, if you just do good work, like sometimes your personality doesn't need to be in play. It's like, can you just get the fucking job done? It's like, yeah, I can do it. It's like, okay. Like you could build a clientele very easily. Like barbering's so like specific. I don't want to like risk losing what I've built to go somewhere else.
Right.
But I don't know. I made home in this shithole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you got your people, and you do a great job. I actually almost I convinced him to come to you. It just didn't work out at the time, but he's very attached to his Camden barber. We go
Look,
straight into the hood every 2 weeks.
listen, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I got guys that have got into full-blown fucking arguments with their wives. And in the middle, they're like, I'm getting a haircut. And just hung up the phone.
Yeah.
No, like, I'll call you, just hung up the phone.
Yeah.
And they put their phone on the chair, and all your fucking phone's bouncing off the chair. She's just calling him. And he's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'll worry about that in 15 minutes. He said, take your time. Just
Exactly.
take your time.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he got lucky with that because everybody wanted him. Obviously, like he's got so many years of experience. Everybody needs a good plumber. And then for me, I was working from 11 in the morning to about 8 at night because of the time difference. And that is what,
Okay.
yeah,
I
because
didn't think about that for a second.
it would have been like 7 or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But
Gotcha.
that's what really, really got my social anxiety and all that stuff going. It wasn't being locked away in Seattle. It wasn't, I went to South Carolina, partied with everyone. It was moving back to Jersey where COVID was still like half of a thing. But
Okay.
I had to work from 11 to 8. And what I thought to myself was, great, you can get up at 7 or 8. You can go to the gym. You can get some groceries done. Like, there's things that you could do. And I wasn't doing any of it. I was sleeping. It didn't matter what time I went to bed. I was sleeping till 10 a.m. By the time I get up and get myself together, I'm in my pajamas on the computer. I'm working till 8. I'm cooking a bullshit dinner, which is like my hobby is to cook. Cooking a bullshit dinner at 8:30. I'm in bed by 10 or 11 and somehow still sleeping till 10 the next morning. The time difference and the lack of communication from the outside world when I was in Jersey working on West Coast hours is what really got my social anxiety and my timing and everything just fucked up.
Shit.
Yeah. And I had to leave, not because I didn't love the company or whatever.
Wait, give me 1 second.
Yeah, please.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's a lot. That's a lot to just intake at one time.
well, because you think to yourself, like, hey, if I start work at 11 every day, like, I can easily get up at 7, 8, even 9 a.m. and, like, go do something.
What do I say? I purposely on Monday and Wednesday started 12. I should be up at 7. Are we up at 7? No. Like, we might be up at, oh, so if she's got to go to work. I don't know. We both kind of crunch the time where it's like, we do like to sleep. But I get that from a perspective of, like, it's a very comforting thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We like to sleep. We're always on the go. We're always moving. We got fast minds. So I kind of get that. And it is even kind of hard to build a structure to some degree.
It's terrible.
Do you think it's the stimulus? I've asked her this before. Yeah, jump in if you want on this one. The stimulus part. Because barbered, I partied.
Yep.
Doctor prescribed me Adderall.
Yep.
At a particular time. And then once all that kind of like just stemmed and it was just barbering, the stimulation part that's like kind of went from like 1,000% hit like 40%, like from 1,000 to 40. And now there's not even really like a motivation sometimes to get up. It's almost like I'm taking my time. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just moving with less stimulus. Do you know what I'm saying? Like now,
Yep.
I used to think when I was in my 20s, like if you guys ever felt this way, I had to, everything had to be done. Like I needed to have this by to bing, bing. It was all like, it was like a statistical thing. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, what was I rushing for? Like, I've been talking to people about this, like, from the COVID thing, and it's like, there's no rush, you know? Like, I think everybody's kind of in competition with everybody. Like, well, we need to do this now, and we need to do this now. And it's like, I kind of talk to some of these people. I'm like, not to sound like a dick, I do really fucking well financially. So it's like, how do you plan on doing this?
Sure.
And it's like, you almost just planned your next 10 years. And I'm like, next month didn't happen. Whether or not it's COVID or anything like that, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Something might happen in a week and change your life forever. Do you know what I'm saying? But you plan 10 years ahead. Like, I got such to like a very monetary level with stimulus, because the more and more I felt stimulated, I was like, how many things can you do before you start like looking for something to do that's actually unproductive, feeling like you're just trying to do something?
So it's
To some degree.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I think it depends on the industry if we're talking about work, right?
Fair.
So for me, I've said before, like, I've been working in retail my entire life. So I am prescribed Adderall for legitimate ADHD. It's something that I need to function throughout the day. Like, I'm not embarrassed to say. But for me, because I know that I'm in this like big corporation at the moment, I know that I need to like bust my ass, do what I need to do. I'm not looking at the next 10 years. I'm looking to tomorrow, but I know that the next 10 years are pretty much built out for me because I'm working for a big corporation.
Okay.
And so to that point, before you continue to that point, when I take my medicine, I take my medicine and I do exactly what needs to be done that day, plus a little extra. And then like I'm set. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not like looking for other things to do, and I'm not panicking about like tomorrow or the next 10 years. I feel like it's already kind of set up for me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So you said that pretty straightforward. I guess if I could add to that,
Sure.
For who is listening to this, that actually is what makes 10 years go by. I tell people, like, having a plan today, and it's like, okay, what did you do today? Some people literally are so monetary that their daily value is kind of just like, I'm doing this. And it's like, okay, cool, the day is done. But did you set up tomorrow? Or did you just set up to just replay the day? Like, I say that's like really big for entrepreneurship, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I'm learning through doing this podcast. It's not just entrepreneurship. It's kind of in life. I may have just a little bit more of an accelerated version of it. Like, I have to fix every problem in my life.
Because you're an entrepreneur and you have your own thing, and you have to set up for tomorrow. You have to think about 5 years from now. You have to.
But I didn't. I didn't up until I was 28. So think about it. I've been cutting hair since before I was like really doing this shit. So, the years and years I was cutting hair, I was making just enough money to where I could go out, have some fun.
Sure.
Like, I had just nice enough of a car to where I was like, yeah, I could pull up in that. That took away some money. And like, now that I've gotten older, I've gotten rid of everything other than just like utility.
Yes.
Even to a small degree. Like, me and my girl got into an argument that I got rid of my Mercedes for an 86 Monte Carlo. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I look at it as like, I work from home. So it's like, that is a very, very, not that it's expensive, it is affordable for me, but it's a paperweight. It sits in the driveway. It does nothing.
Right.
It is wasting money. It's wasting my time. And then I started looking at it like, maybe like this is how America's starting to turn. It's like, can I just afford this? Can I just get into a place in my head where it's like, oh, okay, if I just, and this is where it goes back to you saying the whole 10-year thing. If you can plan your 10 years, you can plan the things that you can purchase or whatever. And I think you can purchase opportunity, not just materialistic things to some degree. You know what I mean? So I got to a phase where it's like, if I just cut hair to just cut hair, it's like, okay, I made X amount today. I could go to the diner. I could get a drink. I could do this. And tomorrow I make it back.
Right.
How many times am I going to waste what I'm making that day on the day? Because now I've gotten to a point where I'm now like mathematically calculated.
Yeah.
And this is my thing. And I think anybody that's listening to this, you can meet up with the fiduciary. You could talk to somebody about like financial planning, because if you know you've got 10 years planned out, then a portion of that 10 years should be for the next 10 years. I didn't understand that concept until around like 30. Like when I was 30 years old, that started clicking to me. I was like, wait a minute. The amount of money I make and the amount of money I had saved actually had like insulted my intelligence after a while. I'm like, I'm not that dumb. And then I felt like the American culture like made me feel dumb, because I'm like, why am I working this hard to be in this position? That's where I had to make a change.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I see exactly what you're saying, but with the state of the country and whatever's going on today, do you genuinely think you can plan for the next 10 years?
Yes.
When you do. When you don't know if eggs are going to go up by another fucking $3 tomorrow. Like, that's the kind of thing, like, I'm with you now.
It's sacrifice.
It's
sacrifice.
I'm with you now in the sense of like, no, 20 is not the new 30. Like, I was kind of
not
like I'm with you now, but regardless of like your career, I know that you have to look at it a little bit differently because you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, you have to look at the next 10 years. But with everything that's going on right now, and it's not that I necessarily want to take it into that direction.
Absolutely.
It's just like, who the fuck knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I'm at a point where I'm like, they're like, we spotted aliens. Ask Joey, I'm like, take me back to my planet, like abduct me.
Are you a Marvel fan?
Yes.
If Thor was real, I'd like to meet him.
I'd love to meet
That'd
Thor.
be cool.
He's so hot.
I just want to see if I could pick up the hammer. Am I worthy? Because that's cool.
Are you Chris Hemsworth?
No, but someone did come in and ask for his haircut the other day.
Shut the fuck
from
up.
Extraction.
Get the fuck out of here.
Came out nice.
So he's coming here?
No. One of my clients wanted that haircut.
Oh,
He ain't coming here.
I was like, wait, Chris Hemsworth?
That'd be crazy if we get Chris Hemsworth on the podcast.
That would be nice. We just have to like reach out to Australia, but we'll figure that out. But yeah, I just think like the next 10 years, like I just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like again, making the joke of like, abduct me already, like take me to my planet. This can't be life right now. Like I think everything from COVID on has been so fucking weird.
I got something for you.
Please.
Got something for you.
Please.
For everybody listening. I follow this concept truly. Yeah. I follow this concept, and this is what helped me out. I think the majority of the anxiety in my life came from not understanding like where life was going to go.
Yeah.
I think that's where like anxiety came into play.
Yeah.
But a couple of years ago, something happened in my life where, thanks, Joe. Yeah, good call. So something just happened, whatever. And this was my famous line. If you can manage your problems, you can manage your profit. And not to say profit in like a financial level, like profit could be anywhere across the board. And I'll give a small example. You got a car, the tire goes, the tire's not covered by anybody but you. What's the tire cost if it goes out? $150, $200. Okay, $200 needs to be covered. That is one problem that is covered. You know, so I feel like if you can sacrifice enough to build yourself like a solid fortitude to where like any problem that you could have, you've already covered, it gives you a means to kind of start looking more forward. Like it took me a long time because I didn't know how many problems I had until I started looking at my problems. Because I was just rolling in a hamster wheel. It was a cool ass hamster wheel though. Had everything in the hamster wheel you could think of. But I'm like, but what's out there? And like I couldn't prepare for it.
Well, can I piggyback off that? So one thing my father always told me, you mentioned something that your father told you that stuck with you. The one thing my father has told me my whole life, if your problem can be fixed with money, it's not a problem.
That's cool. That's fucking awesome.
That's
awesome.
Right, because it's true.
I wasn't ready for that.
And here's the thing, like it's easy for us to say because we both make we're okay, you know, we're not like living on the street. It's probably harder for somebody that genuinely has nothing to understand that, but that is what he told me because he did come from nothing and he did have nothing. And he straight up said, if you can solve a problem with money, that is not a problem, period, the fucking end. And I try my best to tell myself that all the time.
I can completely understand him now, but I only understand that because money's not a problem. That's the only part where I could say,
yeah.
I used to, this was cool. So my old boss used to always talk to me about, you know, teaching trigonometry teaching trigonometry to a kindergartner. And he's like,
Shit, I failed that.
well, it's almost like a really, really tough way to relate material. Like, it's like the brain isn't there. Like, so when I was in the shop, all these people would be talking and like, oh, they talk about all their problems. And it's like, there wasn't enough experience for them to understand how to fix it. More or less, they also went to very inexperienced people in the problem to fix it. Right. So it kept them in another problem. And it kind of is where like the whole, I think this is like life's journey to some degree. Sure. You have to kind of meet enough people to know. It is where I think like you have that gift.
Yeah.
You've downloaded enough emotions from thousands of people over the years. I've done the same to where it's like, okay, I kind of get what your dad said. Yeah. Like there's real problems out there. But yeah, I go back to the financial part. Like if you know your finances for 10 years, you could fix 2 problems right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a combo of both sacrifice and just life understanding. Right. That's a cool thing. I'm going to tell my dad that one.
Well, it's again, it's easier to hear if you have a roof over your head or whatever. But I think about him at times where like he was dirt poor. I can't say that he never had a roof over his head, but like communist Russia, like whatever. Like,
he came from Russia, didn't he?
He did. Both my parents did. They actually met in Brooklyn. They were from the same city in Belarus. They were right next to the Chernobyl explosion. So they dipped out before that, but then like whatever. That's a different topic. But thing is, like, whether they had a roof over their heads or not, like, life was tough and they made something of themselves, the American dream, all that good stuff. And maybe I am being a little bit like whatever with saying something like, if money can solve a problem, it's not a problem. But at the end of the day, health is everything, right? Like you can figure out a way to make money, especially here.
Well, the fact that your parents came from a whole other country, my fiance's parents did the same thing.
Correct.
And I understood a lot of the places they were at when they were younger and how they got to where they're at now. And something I just think that it's got to be a very specific foreign mindset. But
sure,
when you're coming from literally nothing, then even being in America is the American dream.
Exactly.
And that took me like 2 years of being with her and like her family and just kind of like trying to digest like their understanding of life, because they've done very well for themselves. They do really good.
That's great.
And to see where they came from, I'm like, y'all were living in Kensington, didn't speak English.
Yep.
And this is where I kind of have like a little bit of like an arrogance sometimes, because if that's the way it is, then what can you sacrifice as an American to literally sit there and go, yo, do you need this car? No.
Exactly.
Go get a regular fucking car. Do you need those clothes? No, you don't need that shit.
Exactly.
It's like when you can truly not care to have it, you almost don't want it. Like I had so many nice clothes. I just was like, I don't want this. So all the kids that were in that phase, like I gave away all my Jordans, my LeBrons. Like I gave away all my sneakers. Like all the young kids in the barbershop, they loved it because I knew that's the stage in their life that they were at. Like that sneakers were the thing. And it's like, now that I'm like 30 and I'm not in my 20s, I'm just like, holy shit. Like there is such a bigger like perspective.
Right.
It's so much bigger.
And Mary and I were actually having a conversation about it, like where our families are both doing well. You know, they're living the American dream, so to speak. And then I go back to my house and we're eating porridge, boiled potatoes, and like smoked salmon. And I'm like, we don't have to live like this anymore, you guys. Like, we're good.
Yeah, but
like
some of that food, oh my God. Listen, her dad makes this stuff called bulgurage. And you know what that is?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's a cauldron soup. Like, you know, he makes it in a fucking cauldron outside over a fucking fire.
Yeah, like an old school, like it's literally like sticks and like
oven. He's outside.
That's what my dad does.
6 hours doing his thing.
Yep.
There is matzah pieces, ribs, bacon, potatoes, carrots. Like this, when I first looked at it, I was like, I'm not gonna try this. I took the first bite. Oh my God, it was sick. There's some stuff that they make that I'm like, it's sketchy. It's sketchy.
Yeah. I brought Joey to Father's Day over at...
Joey, how'd you do with the food? Did you do okay?
Oh, he did.
In the beginning with her family, I was like, I'm not used to eating foods this way. And like I said, some of them, like the way your mom makes that one fucking chicken dish with the potatoes and that's just...
Onions.
Yeah, that's fucking bomb. It's like orange fucking sauce I don't know where the orange comes from.
Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions.
Actually, oh shit, I'm looking at the time right now.
Oh.
It was so awesome to have you on. Are you doing good though? You feeling good about the next 10 years? How you feel?
I am. I'm feeling good. Like I said, being, in a corporation that I'm happy with. I'm happy with my coworkers. I don't love living in Philly. I'm a New Yorker, clearly, but I'm not going to shit on it. Love the company. Know that I'm going to be there for 10 years. Know that I have a job secured. I know that I'm good. And
so you're ready for the next stage of life.
I am. I really am. So 20 is not the new. It's not the new 30. It's not. And just to kind of like wrap up my whole story, like I feel like our age, we, like millennials in general, we went through, I think, something that nobody else can really relate to. Not saying it's worse or better, but we've gone through like, the 90s were like, we had like the best economy ever, right?
We had technology. We had
no technology, games, and then now
cell phones, beepers,
yeah,
the computer, the evolution of the computer.
Yeah, we had nothing,
and then 9/11, and Y2K.
That's exactly.
Yeah, am I missing? Yeah, what else? What else are we missing? Was there a war somewhere?
Well, the Cold War ended in '93, I think.
We had Clinton getting a blowjob. That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, but like we're just going through things that I think are so up and down that like these 20-year-olds now will never understand. And I'm not saying worse or better. It's just like I hope that they have an open mind, and I hope that they have a perspective on what could have been.
That's a good way to put that. Like, and I think that's what, I'll tie this all in now. Like, that's what COVID did. It closed your mind in. Mm-hmm. So as the world's growing, you're still here.
Yep.
And sometimes, like, I love the Matrix concept. The beginning of the movie, he takes Neo out of the Matrix, and he's like, usually we don't bring guys like your age out. Freaks them out, and they can't handle it. And it's like, that's what I feel there is a very, very big problem about to happen in our culture within the next 5 to 10 years. Because I think within 5 to 10 years, people will start breaking the robotic lifestyle, and they will want to figure out, like, when people talk about a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
I feel like...
Are we there?
No. I think if you're already open-minded enough, you don't ever have a midlife crisis. I don't think you ever have one.
Okay.
Like, if this is how life goes, you don't really... Like, when something hits you, you're not like, Like, some people are in the house and in their routine for so long that when something hits them, they're like,
Right.
They're like, fuck. It's like, we had kids. We did this for 20 straight years. And then one day it's like, what did I do for myself? Fuck.
Right.
I think that's the midlife crisis, when you're not aware of what you're taking on. But if you're very aware of, like, okay, I'm working here. This is the plan. Okay, so if something goes wrong, you're already understanding your problems, understanding your profits. Like, when I said I had a lot of shit I had to unravel of problems in my life, I didn't realize how monetary you could be with them, to where the smallest tweak changes the rest.
It's analytics, it's statistics, it's math at this point. I think that
emotional analytics,
and love that. And if you were to talk about a midlife crisis, I just made a joke like, are we there yet? I think we went through it. I think 25 was my midlife crisis. That's when I was like, I am not making money, but I need a Lexus, but I need like a Cartier watch, and I need Louboutin shoes, like putting myself in debt. Like I was going through that at 25, and I feel like in general, millennials, like that's sort of what we did. And then suddenly it was COVID, and then suddenly like none of that shit matters. I don't know if it's age or what we've physically
I think it was a switch. I think if you never had it, you wanted it, and if you already had it, you didn't need it.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Fully agreed.
Well, yeah, let's cheers the end of this.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Cole.
Thanks for having me, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you, too. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.